Thousands and thousands of prisoners are sitting behind bars in Israeli jails. These include Palestinian children, women and men too. A new report has shown that Israel is increasing the frequency and intensity of detention of Palestinian people. We're talking about dozens of arrests every day. Hello, I'm Wissam Bahrani. On this episode of Palestine Files, we want to dig deeper into this campaign of arrests before Tel Aviv's planned annexation of the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Prisoners Center for Studies says Israeli arrest campaigns have become a part of daily life for Palestinian people. The monitoring group says hardly a day goes by where arrests are not recorded. In a report, it has logged an increase in the numbers, and Tel Aviv is targeting all the segments of society. Almost 400 had been arrested in the month of May alone. What's being described as collective punishment includes children, women, the elderly, the sick, human rights activists, legislators, political leaders, and even those with special needs. Some have even been charged with throwing stones. Hamza al-Masri has been detained for more than 7 months now. His mother says the family has been struggling to survive since his incarceration.
عائلة 6 أنفار. يعني راتب حمزة يعني في سجناته كان هو اللي يساعدنا، كان هو اللي يصرف علينا. حتى دواء أبوه وعلاج أبوه كان هو ناخذ منه. يعني كثير كان يفرج علي. أبوه مريض ما بيشتغل. باخذ جلسات وباخذ دم لغاية اللحظة هي إلى يمكن فوق 3-4 سنين.
The arrest campaigns are often conducted in the form of pre-dawn raids in occupied West Bank cities, towns and villages. In the occupied West Bank village of Yabad, Israeli forces attack Palestinians protesting a pre-dawn raid by the regime.
اقتحمت القوات الاحتلال البلدة بعدد كبير من الآليات العسكرية، اقتحموا البيوت، فاتوا اعتقلوا النساء واعتقلوا الأطفال واعتقلوا الشيوخ.
Israeli authorities have subjected all detainees to one or more forms of physical or psychological torture, moral abuse and degrading treatment, especially children. Over the past 6 months, 1/3 of the arrests have taken place in occupied Jerusalem, Al-Quds, with 600 Palestinians detained in the holy city. Outrage in the online community on the ongoing campaign of arrests. Aliyah Hassan says not only are Palestinian prisoners subjected to inhumane conditions that fail the minimum standards set by international and humanitarian law, after enduring years of torture in Israeli dungeons, upon finally being released, they are immediately re-arrested. A point not mentioned often enough. Active Stills says Palestinian women protest in Haifa against police violence and in support of Palestinian prisoners and martyrs in a protest by the Palestinian feminist movement Tala'at. Thank you for that, Active Stills. Rima Nijar says Israeli occupation forces abducted Palestinian student Lian Kayad, 22, as she traveled to Ramallah with her mother on Monday, and that's 8th of June 2020. They seized the Birzat University student at the Zat Tarara roadblock in the central occupied West Bank. Thank you, Rima, for letting us know. Lisa, just Lisa, says, what's kettling? And that's all she says. You need to read in between the lines there, despite it being just one line. Jeremy Revolution Now says a technique developed by Israeli Defense Force against Palestinian prisoners in open-air prisons that has been exported around the globe. And BM, former American personnel who served during the invasion of Iraq, testified that in Abu Ghraib prison, they used Israeli torture innovation called Palestinian chair, where prisoners are tied to a chair and torturers inflict severe pain on them as a punishment. Israel exports torture. We didn't know about that one. Aram Sayyid Soleimani says Palestinian prisoners are frequently coerced into admitting to things they did not do and forced to sign statements in Hebrew, a language they do not understand. Another very valid point that doesn't get mentioned often enough. So that was social media. But what about the Palestinians? Their point of view has been captured, as always, by our team on the ground in the occupied territories.
هاي سياسة قديمة طبعا، وسياسة طبعا لا تثنينا عن نضالنا وعن محاربتنا للاحتلال. وطبعا الاحتلال بيعمل كل الوسائل بحيث انه يثنينا عن حقوقنا.
من اول يوم اجوا عنا على الوطن وهم يعني معروف في سياساتهم، فشو ما يعملوا في الوطن، شو ما يعملوا بالشعب الفلسطيني، فمش إشي مستبعد عنهم. فإحنا إن شاء الله بدنا نضلنا نعمل نوقف هاي السياسات ونوقفهم كلهم من طورهم من أراضينا إن شاء الله.
إسرائيل تستعمل دائما وأبدا الهمجية في اقتحام القرى والمخيمات والمدن الفلسطينية، تستهجن في عملية الاعتقال من البيوت. إسرائيل إذا جاءت لتعتقل أحد الشبان من البيوت بيقوموا في تكسير الأبواب بدون سابق إنذار. طبعا بيرعبوا الأطفال والنساء والشيوخ.
في عنا في كثير روايات بتحكي عن الاعتقال الإسرائيلي، بتحكي كيف إحنا بنعاني سواء في الاعتقال نفسه، كيف إحنا بنعاني من أعمار اللي بيعتقلوا، كيف بنعاني من كمان عنا الفلسطينيات كيف بيعتقلوا نفسهم. يعني في كثير عنا فلسطينيات عم بيعانوا جوا الاعتقال نفسه.
في ناس بتوقف مع إسرائيل، بتوقف مع إسرائيل، يعني بدهم يعتقلوا الشباب، بدهم مش يكون لنا دولة ويكون لنا حقوق. هذا هو سياسة إسرائيل وسياسة أمريكا والعالم الغربي.
بعضهم مرضى وجرحى، يعني هذا إشي معروف وجميع العالم بيعرف، والعالم صامت والعرب صامتين وما حدا بحرك.
يعني أنا بطلب من الشعوب العربية عامة والرؤساء والحكماء والشعوب إنه يشوفوا موضوع الاعتقالات السياسية من قبل القوات الإسرائيلية اللي بحق المواطنين الفلسطينيين شبانا وفتيات وكبار في السن وصغار في السن، لأنه هاي سياسة بتعمل على التنكيل في أبناء الشعب الفلسطيني، وسياسة هادمة لأفكار ولا طموحات ولا أهداف الشعب الفلسطيني.
Since the beginning of this year, the Israeli occupation has arrested more than 1,850 Palestinian women, children and men. That's since the beginning of the year. Israeli authorities have subjected all detainees to one or more forms of physical or psychological torture, moral abuse and degrading treatment, especially children. The continued arrests endangered the lives of the Palestinians in extreme circumstances in light of the coronavirus pandemic, thus risking the lives of many. The occupation holds more than 4,800 Palestinians, including about 700 patients, medical patients. So it's now time to review international headlines regarding this story. Booker Ngasa is from the Kenya Palestine Solidarity Movement and he joins us now. Mr. Ngasa, welcome. Would you say that Israel's mass arrest policy of Palestinians amounts to collective punishment?
The Zionist policy of mass arrest definitely amount to collective punishment, and it is not unique to the Zionist regime. It has been used in Africa for for several for the occupiers of the African soil, and Definitely, Palestine is already an open-air prison with people struggling to access the very basic in terms of human life. So, yes, it amounts to, collective punishment.
So under the Geneva Convention or other international war treaties, what is Israel committing here with regards to collective punishment?
In regard to the convention, Geneva Convention, where people who commit such collective punishment against a people is breaking international law. But this is also something that Israel has always done. Look at his adherence to international law in terms of even nuclear non-proliferation of nuclear, weapons. Israel has been breaking every other law. So even in terms of collective punishment, I don't think we could be expecting the Zionist regime there to even give a thought. And they are doing that regardless of any, adherence to international laws or any statutes, or even the universal law to respect dignity. So in that way, we are seeing only a case of an occupier and the occupied. And more often than not, it's not about the Israel breaking the international law that is being highlighted in the mainstream media. It is always the victim that is being called upon. It is the Palestinian people that is being vilified, while they are rightfully justified to use any means available to them to defend their right to statehood and their right to their land.
But there also seems to be a huge spike in arrests of women, children and men, and it is concentrated in occupied Jerusalem, Al-Quds. Why Al-Quds?
Now, on the arrest of children and also the women, and particularly in Al-Quds place, the main policy that drives that action is to dampen the spirit of the Palestinian people, is to make them feel like they have lost their struggle for right to land and they will never get it, to make them hopeless. That is the main thing, so that their spirit to fight is completely broken. And those kind of tactics is what we can see that is being, of course, deployed by a desperate Zionist regime that is losing every day public opinion about the atrocities, in Palestine.
Very interesting. Bukar Ngasa, member of the Kenya Palestine Solidarity Movement. Thank you very much indeed for joining the show. Dear viewers, we're going to take a short break and be right back. See you in a moment. Amid a coronavirus pandemic, thousands of Palestinians are still languishing in Israeli military jails. Tel Aviv has reportedly rejected calls to implement any safety protocols for the prisoners, including placing new inmates in quarantine and allowing social distancing measures. As a result, a number of prisoners have been infected with COVID-19.
فقد طلبنا أن يتم الإفراج عن الأسرى الذين يقبعون في سجون الاحتلال ونحمل الاحتلال المسؤولية عن سلامتهم.
Regrettably, however, even the extreme challenges posed by this pandemic to all have not convinced the occupying power to stop its crimes. Instead, Israel carries on with its illegal policies and practices, business as usual. Whatever technical coordination has been achieved between the two sides in recent weeks to combat COVID-19 has been undercut by incessant violations. This is not politicization of the matter as alleged by the Israeli representative. These are the hard facts. I repeat the hard facts. Most flagrant of these violations has been Israel's annexation push. Real concerns and worries raised worldwide by this horrible pandemic cannot be used as an excuse to ignore human rights violations and look the other way, as Israel would wish everyone do. On the contrary, this pandemic has only further highlighted the absurdity, immorality, and illegality of such crimes and the urgency of bringing them to an end right now. When people everywhere are being instructed to shelter at home, how can Israel justify destroying homes? When people everywhere are desperately seeking medical care, how can Israel justify destruction of clinics and humanitarian assistance and medical neglect of prisoners?
The Palestinian Prisoners Society has urged the World Health Organization to pressure the regime to release the prisoners. Israel has refused to do so, leaving at least 700 sick inmates vulnerable to catching and dying from COVID-19. The International Committee of the Red Cross says it has demanded, but to no avail, the release of prisoners over the age of 65 and those suffering from chronic diseases. Laith Ma'rouf is an activist and a member of Solidarity for Palestinian Human Rights, and he joins us now. Mr. Ma'rouf, welcome. Many of these Palestinians are undergoing physical and psychological torture. What can you tell us more about that side of the aspect of things?
The occupation regime and its security forces are some of the cruelest in the world, and we've seen many reports come out from Palestinian and Israeli human rights organizations detailing the sadistic torture that many Palestinian prisoners have to go through when arrested and incarcerated in the Zionist jails. So special cruelty is dealt to children who go through this menacing regime. And we hear right now, about Palestinian female students from Birzeit University that are arrested, and there's been a host of arrests of students from Birzeit University in the past few months, and they are being tortured. Not only physically, some say sexually, have been assaulted, and this is a reality for the Zionist colonization process since its beginning in 1948, and massacres and torture and rape and killings of children.
Very sad reality for the victims. But just remembering, this is all happening while the coronavirus is still present, the COVID-19, during the arrest and the imprisonment of Palestinians, the chances of being infected are pretty high. So is Israel trying to get the Palestinians infected?
Since the outbreak of the corona pandemic, the families and the associations dealing with the rights of prisoners in Palestine, in the occupied territories and in apartheid Israel, have been trying to not only get the world to notice their families, but to also get them aid. The Israeli apartheid authorities have refused to provide any of these inmates with any of the protective gear they need, like masks or gloves. In fact, at the beginning of the pandemic, the vicious authorities took away all the detergents, for hand cleaning and sanitization from the prisons where the Palestinians were being held. And also, it's important to note that the conditions of these prisoners, how they're held, they are packed like sardines in wards it's not like private rooms or such where they can maybe avoid some of the contact that happens. So all these families and these rights organizations attempted to remedy the situation of the Palestinian prisoners, and nothing has happened. In fact, families lost, and the prisoners lost more rights.
Okay, on that note, a very sad note, to Mr. Laith Ma'ruf from Solidarity for Palestinian Human Rights. Thank you for your contribution to this episode of Palestine Files. Our team sat down with Muwaffaq Hamid. He is the spokesman for the Hussam Prisoners and Martyrs Association, and he says the arrest campaigns are linked to the regime's annexation plans.
نحن نعتقد أن سياسة العقاب الجماعي التي تتخذها دولة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي ضد الشعب الفلسطيني هي اعتقالات سياسية، والهدف الأساسي هو منها هدف سياسي. والهدف السياسي يتمثل أن الشعب الفلسطيني الآن بسبب سياسة الضم وما يعانيه الأسرى من عمليات قمع داخل السجون الإسرائيلية على بركان بارود متفجر، ويحتاج هذا البركان إلى شعلة لكي تقوم الانتفاضة الرابعة. من أجل ذلك فإن الاحتلال الإسرائيلي هدفه السياسي هو قمع الانتفاضة في مهدها وعبر الاعتقالات الكبيرة جدا. عندما نتحدث أنه منذ بداية هذا العام أكثر من 1800 أسير تم اعتقالهم، هذه ضمن السياسة العقاب الجماعي التي تمارسها دولة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي ضد شعبنا الفلسطيني. الهدف منه قتل الروح المعنوية وقتل أي مبادرة لدى الشعب للقيام بأي انتفاضة جديدة. وأن صراعنا مع هذا الاحتلال هو صراع وجود وليس صراع حدود أو حلول سياسية. فمن أجل ذلك هم يستمرون بالاعتقالات، هم يستمرون بالقتل، ونحن نستمر والقتل، نحن نستمر بالمقاومة، إما شهيدا أو أسيرا أو جريحا. ها هو حال الشعب الفلسطيني، وجميع عمليات الاعتقال الجماعية التي تقوم بها لن تثني الشعب الفلسطيني عن القيام بواجبه الوطني من أجل التحرر من آخر احتلال إسرائيل. إذا نظرنا أن عدد الأسرى الآن الذين يقبعون داخل السجون الإسرائيلية يبلغ عددهم الآن 4700 أسير فلسطيني، منهم حوالي 200 أسير فلسطيني من قطاع غزة، كون قطاع غزة لا يوجد به احتلال. أما باقي الأسرى 4500 أسير النصف بالكامل هم من مدينة القدس والخليل. إذا نظرنا إليهم، مدينة القدس والخليل هي التي يتركز بها أعلى نسبة في الاعتقالات، وبالذات إذا نظرنا إلى عدد الأسرى داخل السجون الإسرائيلية سنجد أنه يوجد أكثر من 1700 إلى 1800 أسير فقط من مدينة القدس. فالمستهدف هي مدينة القدس، هي أرض الرباط، هم من يدافعون عن الأقصى.
So we found out today that collective punishment, illegal under international law, is being practiced on a daily basis by Israel against the Palestinians as it clears out important areas in occupied Jerusalem, Al-Quds, for what seems like an annexation attempt. Palestinians are wary of this, and it seems like they have no other choice but to take matters into their own hands, a trend that has recently surfaced where Palestinians are fighting back against Israel's brutal annexation. And it seems that this will only escalate in the coming days as Israel and the silence of the international community leaves the Palestinians with no other choice. Thank you for watching this episode of Palestine Files, and see you next week.